Good afternoon. Welcome on into another episode of From Day One. Today we have a no-nonsense judge willing to hand out some serious penalties.
He's in somebody's court. 1214. Rife, Kimmler.
No, I don't remember. This was
Okay, thank you.
Rice Kimbler, you were called?
Rife. Well, I got the defendant is waving to me. He can hear me okay. Rife. Rife. You're coming in great. It's your attorney who is...
Being an idiot?
He's not even on anymore.
Now he's off. This works so well.
This works so well. I like that one. This works so well. Your attorney decided to log off Zoom. This is
Oh, yeah,
working so
that
well.
made me seasick watching that. 22-40080. Give it to Lori. She knows how to work those things. Thanks, Lori. It's just mute him permanently.
Permanently.
Because there's... Okay, you left the meeting. Okay, there you go. All right, 22-40080 is now called the State of Texas versus David Leonard McElroy. You are Mr. McElroy.
Yes, sir.
Present, and there's Mr. Kimmler here in the courtroom.
Yes, sir.
Earlier, you pleaded guilty to this second-degree felony of tampering with physical evidence. A pre-sentence report has been prepared. Have the parties had an opportunity to review it, and are there any corrections or changes to it?
Nothing to say, Your Honor.
Update on.
The state just wants him arrested, Your Honor.
All right, the pre-sentence report is made a part of the record for all purposes. Now, correct me if I'm wrong, his criminal history is obviously a little maximized here. We have a beginning in
Let's hear this
2001. It looks like the defendant was placed on probation
What for?
illegal possession of a controlled substance.
Oh,
And
drugs.
later, that was revoked, like 2.5 years later, and he was sentenced to 2 years in the state jail.
So he didn't
Then
even
in
make his probation?
2003, he was also placed on deferred probation for an offense that he committed after he was placed on deferred probation in the illegal possession of controlled substance case we first talked about.
More drugs.
And that was another illegal possession of a
More
controlled
drugs.
substance. The court placed him on deferred probation for 8 years. That was revoked at the same time. His earlier probation was revoked, and he received 4 years in prison.
So we're at 6 years.
I can't. There's another illegal possession of a controlled substance. I see date of offense was September 19th of 2003.
Jesus
After
Christ.
he was placed on probation for the first 2 illegal possession of controlled substances. That case was adjudicated at the same time that he was sentenced to prison and state jail on the previous illegal possession cases, and he received 2 years state jail confinement on that.
So 8 years, 3
Thereafter,
charges.
In 2009, the defendant is charged with tampering with physical evidence, and that was adjudicated by
charge.
a jury trial. It was in this court? I believe so, Your Honor. And he received 10 years imprisonment there.
10 more.
So that would be his 4th felony. Then later on, in 2015, he receives another tampering with physical evidence case, and that was adjudicated, and he received 5 years imprisonment in 2015.
Do little movie clips into the
Thereafter,
world.
in 2019, he is charged with illegal possession of a controlled substance and was sentenced to 1 year in the
That was my
state jail.
sister looking at the new Roku.
November
Hold on, let
21.
me clear this so you guys can hear it over. That's my sister. We had a Roku for the TV and it just switched off to the screensaver. And she hadn't seen it before, so she was mentioning. Alright, back to the laundry list of drug boy.
But he also received a second 1 year state jail confinement on a second possession of a controlled substance, which apparently occurred 2 months after his first.
Oh, I'm sorry, you guys can't see that, but just listing up the charges, what my sister was doing with sunflower seeds was just perfectly timed with the judge continuing just to kind of like go the laundry list down. I will not mention exactly what she was doing, but it just fit perfectly.
Shaking my hands
First.
like I'm gonna roll dice.
Arrest of possession of a controlled substance. That's the way I figured. So that is how many? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7
7, I believe.
convictions of felonies, including 2 of tampering with physical evidence. And
That could be like
that's what
flushing.
he's charged with now.
That could be like flushing the drugs down the toilet or trying to eat them.
I'm out the window.
Basically making sure that you don't have them on you.
Okay. That's essentially the criminal history. And in this case, the defendant pleaded guilty to paragraphs 1 and 2. Paragraph 1 being illegal tampering with physical evidence involving a bottle containing phencyclidine or PCP. And he also pleaded true to one of the illegal possessions of controlled substance convictions, the one from 2004 that I had mentioned earlier. So it's a third-degree felony, which has been
Felony.
increased to a second-degree felony or enhanced by virtue of
Being more of a
one
felony.
of the 3 prior felony convictions that the defendant was charged with. And the court would note, had he been convicted of everything here, he would be looking at a habitual felon status, which would have been no less than 25 nor more than 99 years confinement in prison or life imprisonment. But as it was, Mr. Kimmler was able to negotiate a deal here where whatever sentence shall not exceed a cap of 15 years confinement in prison. So we are looking at no less than 2 nor more than 15 years confinement in prison. He could be placed on deferred or unadjudicated probation as well. He could be placed on regular probation. All right. I think those are the boundaries that we're looking at. And again, no objections to the pre-sentence report. Okay. Then go ahead for the defense, Mr. Kimmler.
Your Honor, I would note that in the third paragraph of the recommendation we made in the pre-sentence report, the preparing probation officer sagaciously notes that a study of the defendant's known criminal history emphatically suggests that possession and use of illegal substances have been a very destructive force throughout his adult life. I think that about sums up the position that Mr. McElroy is in facing the court today with substantial criminal history that he has and the long and storied convictions that he has for drug possession and the associated tampering with evidence type of offenses. I've talked to Mr. McElroy extensively in this case, particularly prior to entering the plea and then subsequent to that in preparation for the sentencing hearing. I sort of regret him not actually being here in person. I know that the court making these decisions tries to consider all aspects of the defendant's demeanor and everything else. And I think if the defendant were present in person, perhaps the court would have a better feel for where he is in this particular moment of his life as far as desiring to remediate his drug dependency and drug abuse. I know that in talking with him, I've discussed why I guess the etiology, so to speak, of his substance abuse issues and why he uses or has continued to use PCP in particular, the criminal history that he's accumulated. And in talking with him, it appears to me, of course, I'm not an expert, that he's used PCP repeatedly as a coping mechanism for various traumas and stresses of his life. In this particular case, and again, I'm not offering this to detract from his culpability or to excuse it, but is dealing with the death of a relative, and I assume that instead of just dealing with the normal grief process, he chose to mask that with PCP and the effects, the psychoactive effects that has on him, and which enabled him to sort of.
Please do not throw away the lock and key, Your Honor. I'll boilerplate with this guy's bullshitting.
I've talked to him about treatment modalities. I've spoken to him again through my own
All right, let's move this data for seconds.
trying to examine rationally why he tends to, or why he's
All
continuing
right,
to
a few more seconds. Because his client ain't getting the shit.
Since I report that if the court is inclined to do that, that he'd be required to attend and successfully complete the SAFE program, because I think without that type of structure and counseling, that he would probably fall short on the deferred suspension and be exposed to the full 20 years. I think SAFE could provide him with the modalities and structure that he needs to reify his desire to become substance abuse free, to live a sober lifestyle. Should the court exercise its discretion and sentence him to the maximum allowed under the plea bargain of 15 years, and even on that sentence, I'm sure the court's aware that in all likelihood he would probably be substantially less than the 15 years, and then he would be returned to society basically the same as he is now, with the same substance abuse issues and a strong likelihood of recidivist behavior and reoffend and be back in the same situation with drugs as he is now. And that's, again, why I would suggest to the court that if he were here available to address the court in person, I think it would perhaps be more apparent to the court of his sincere desire to become drug-free and his willingness to participate in state D and try to avail himself of all the opportunities that would offer, and if the court would allow him to be on probation and successfully complete it.
All right, State. Your Honor, as the court's aware, the defendant has extensive prior criminal history, as well as he has a prior tampering with physical evidence, which is the same offense he's charged with here, one of them. And he received 10 years in this court on
Many times.
March 8, 2010 for that, and keeping consistent with the court's previous rulings on these types of cases is that the state believes he should get more than he got the last time for the same type of offense, which the state would be asking for the 15 years. However, the court finds the defendant obviously is in more in need of a drug treatment for this. The state's also fine with that as well.
Mr. Mackerel, I wanted to address.
Go ahead, defendant, Mr. Mackerel. What do you want to say?
Don't let him talk.
Your Honor, I'm getting older in age, and I do have a problem. I recognize it, and the excuses and all that is not worth it. My time is not worth it. Key is not worth it. Nothing. I'm tired of losing behind it.
I love these fuckers have the come to earth moment once they realize their ass is going to jail.
As far as treatment, I take any kind of treatment.
Anything else?
Your Honor, I apologize that Mr. Mackerel is not more articulate, but I do believe, based on my extensive discussions with him, that although he's not able to express himself as I would particularly like, he possesses a sincere desire to change his behavior. Is what I've been able. And of course, I can't look into it and say that for a fact, but he gives every indication to me that he's reached sort of the end of the line with this, and it won't treatment and help. Now, does that to say that once he gets the treatment and help, he's going to be able to succeed and be drug-free? No, that's why you put him on deferred, and if he has a slip up again, you've got the full range of punishment. It's 20 years open to you. So, but what risk is it of getting a chance to?
Have you read the pre-sentence report?
Yes, I know he's
I
got a
don't
lot of
think he
criminal history.
Not that. He's been in and out of treatment.
Well, but that's what I'm saying.
State P treatment.
The point that he's reached, you know, and he's
No, now it's on his. Now he's decided he's going to do it. No, this is 22 years solid of this type of behavior that he's been convicted for. 22 years. He's been on probation three separate times and failed.
Mm-hmm.
He's been in prison four separate times.
Correct, Your Honor.
And 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 convictions. 7 of these are felonies. And here, history of substance abuse treatment. The defendant attended treatment within a substance abuse safe P facility in 2019 and proceeding into 2020. He has also sought unsuccessfully privatized inpatient treatment in Houston prior to return to Jefferson County in October of 2022. And his last employment in October of 22, he failed his drug test with fencyclidine. They tried. He's tried. Others have tried. He just has a consistent desire to revert back to bad decision making. 22 full years of drug-related crimes, and he's gotten even the most substance abuse felony punishment, which is as much as we can do. And he's still, God bless you. Anyway,
all of it is that he's at a stage in his life where he's older, and I think possesses perhaps an increased degree of ability to reflect and observe his conduct, and he should be court living on probation. Again, you have the full 20 years that you can sentence him. Whereas if you sentence him to the penitentiary based on his history, there's no reason to think that it's not going to follow its pattern, that he's going to do, I don't know, 7 or 8 years at the most.
You know, the interesting, not to enter into this, but that's not what you tender to the court with his rich criminal history and his pre-sentence report is not something. Those are not options I'm going to take. Now, I would be willing to consider if he wants to plead to habitual felon and be placed on deferred. I might be willing to consider that.
I'd have to speak with him and explain to him.
But he'd be looking at life imprisonment if he made one, which this court wouldn't hesitate to do under these circumstances. But I'm not telling you how to do things, but he has been an absolute failure here, and just telling me now after 7 convictions, 8 convictions, and into SAP and other treatments, that now he's this time he's promising, his promises are going to be good. Every time he went on probation, which was 4 separate probations he failed, he made a promise.
It sounds like a 3-year-old kid going, yeah, I promised to be good and you'll let me do this. And then, of course, second you turn your eyes for a half second, they've already fucked up.
Follow all the terms. And if I don't, then I know I can be revoked.
I agree with the court. It's actually in the best indication of future behavior is past behavior as well.
But right now, that cap is at 15, which the court is looking at the top end, of course, based upon his rich criminal history and his failure at his attempts to help himself, which he's had more than his fair opportunities. But if somebody like this wants to be placed on deferred or unadjudicated probation, looking at life imprisonment, that's about as much of a motivation aspect. But on the other side of the coin, it would, on my watch, not a failure would not be a real viable option.
Your Honor, I guess the way my suggestion is to go ahead and sentence him, and I'll go out and speak with him about the alternative and see if that's something that he would like to do. I think the court has 30 days. I could file a motion for resentencing if he does.
If nothing further, I'm going to find as follows, sir, that you have pleaded guilty and true to paragraphs 1 and 2, respectively, of this indictment, which constitute tampering with physical evidence, as punished as a second-degree felony. You understood and appreciated the consequences of pleading guilty and true. There's sufficient evidence supporting your pleas to find you guilty of paragraphs 1 and 2. I so find you guilty and true of paragraphs 1 and 2. And that is a second-degree felony. I am following this agreement. You are hereby sentenced to confinement in the institutional division of the Texas Department of Criminal Justice to serve a term of 15 years. You will be given credit. You've got over 140 days unofficially credit. There is a second case which would be dismissed. I'll hold all of that, though, until you want to come back and let me know how things are. But, you know, that's just an option, again, that the court would consider, which I hate getting involved in this, but you're looking for something. And in his case, he has painted a picture that is distressing for himself and for the community.
Mm-hmm. I understand the court's position.
Okay.
I'll be able to talk.
That is all.
Thanks.
All right, let me take up Randall Boudreaux really quick, Lee.
All
Ms.
right,
Gonzalez,
we'll finish this one too, but not
Good
part of
morning,
the
Your Honor.
courts. So,
what are we doing? What are we doing here on Mr. Boudreaux?
So we sent over the affidavits. It was brought to my attention that they're not so clear. The affidavit of indigency. So we're getting them faxed over right now. But aside from that, I believe we just need a trial date.
Judge, the affidavit of indigency is filled out wrong. Ellie showed it to me. It's none of the defendant's information. It's the defendant's sister.
Yeah, when we discussed this last time, the defendant had already been found indigent, and so you asked me to have his family member fill it out so that you had the information that his family was not able to pay for the investigator we were asking for. That's why it's someone else's information and not the defendant's.
But he needs to fill out something swearing that he's indigent as well.
Yeah, and he already has, Your Honor. In the beginning of the case, he was found indigent by this court, and he's remained in custody since then. So if you would like for him to fill it out again, we can. But my understanding is that the court already has that.
If we have one, we don't need one.
Okay.
We suggest that.
I mean, the only thing I would say, Judge, is at the point he was found indigent, he did have a court-appointed attorney and had since hired their firm. I mean, but I don't know if that changes his circumstances. I mean, he had Mr. Vasquez appointed to him for quite a long time.
All right, so how are you able to be hired on a major felony case if he's indigent?
So we have been hired at a discounted rate, and we were hired by his family member, and that is why his family member is the one who filled out the form that they're not able to pay anything on top of what they're paying us. And what they're paying us monthly is very minimal. We've been working with the family in order for them to be able to keep us on as retained counsel.
All right, I've gotten this affidavit of indigence that is unsigned. Let's see, unsworn declaration. And it's not signed, it's not in the right place. Nobody signed it. But what is filled out is monthly income of assets at $2,402 and expenses exceed that income. And the expenses have nothing to do with expenses for an attorney. You see, I got a problem here. This is math. It's a science. They're getting money from somewhere that they're not telling me about, and I don't like that. It's going to have to be forthcoming. But this monthly expense exceeds their income and assets. How can that be and you get paid? When you answer that, let me know. But
And And like I said, Your Honor, if I may, they are paying us a very minimal amount.
There's nothing here that they.
I understand.
In the math doesn't work.
Okay. And
No,
if you.
It doesn't bother me. I guess he can. If he wants you to represent him, and they're telling me that however you're getting paid is not being shown to me. I'm not sure that I really am that interested in finding out where y'all are getting paid if it's a minimal amount. But the math doesn't work out. There's something weird about this that is not complete. But I'd rather them retain a lawyer than the court have to appoint somebody and cause the taxpayers to pay for it. So anything else about that?
Stay.
We're gonna set it for y'all want a trial on this. We will set it for trial, and we'll put it in the April docket. Call 18-28947, the state of Texas versus Deborah Jean Harris.
Stop.
What are we going to do today?
I said stop. Stop. That's what we're going to do. We'll cut this at here. As always, please make sure you do like, share, and subscribe. Be kind to one another and release Kraken. As you continue to watch, get us close to that 50,000 views, which we are within the last 1,000. Continue helping us finish that up, so those red presents can come your way as gifts and prizes. Till then, thanks for watching. From day one, have a great night. We'll see you on the night side, as they say on the B side of the record. Till then, goodbye.